So now we are going to start day 19, in which we are going to complete all the assembly commands. So we will start with exploded view first. Select the command from the upper ribbon here. There are two types of steps given here. First one is regular step and second is radial step. So if you want to explode the part according to the axis direction, then we will go for regular step. And suppose if you want to explode the parts at one time in multiple directions, then we'll go for radial step. So I'm going to select first regular step. The first part I'm going to explode here is the last part which I have mounted in the assembly. So I'll start with this nut. Select the nut and drag to the axis direction in which it was mounted. After exploding and dragging each part, we have to say done here. You can see at left side, and then only go for the other part. Select the next part. Again drag the part in the required axis direction. Say done. Then the other part, which I am going to take this nuts out here. So select all the nuts together only. And then drag the part according to the axis. Again say done. Next part here is the retainer plate. I'll select the plate and drag the option there. Say done. Now this elliptical plate is mounted on the shaft and it is little bit inclined. So I'll select this part and you can see the center point here, it is showing in white color. I'll right click on the center and say exploding align with the component origin. So we have to select this option, align with the component origin, and then we'll drag this part here so as to explode the part according to the direction mounted on the assembly. Say it done here. Then the next part, I'll take this shaft, drag it according to direction. Say done. And then go for the last part. As there was no space for dragging the shaft, I'll drag this part only here. Say done. Again select the shaft and take it little bit forward so as to place it in proper space. Say done. And now this assembly has been exploded here. I'll say it okay. Next thing we are going to provide here is routing lines, which will resemble the assembly, how each part is been assembled with the alignment of the other. For that we have to select the faces which are going to be aligned there. You can see the opposite directions are being shown by the arrows here. We'll click on the arrow and put it in the same direction. Then this handle is going to be assembled with this retainer plate at the center. So I'll select this center face. Then this plate is going to be assembled with the shaft. So I'll select this shaft face here, circular face. And then the shaft is going to assemble in this part, circular part face. So now the line diagram for routing is completed here for one set. I said okay. Next, these nuts, put the arrows in same direction. The other nut, change the directions properly. Then the last nut. Again the items to connect. This retainer plate is going to be aligned with this holes here. So I'll connect that holes also with the routing line. Select the required face. Put the arrows in same direction. Say OK. Then the second hole. Direction of arrow. You just need to say OK for the one time only. Then this space will be empty again. And you can again give the selections there. So now these routing lines are also been provided there. Say it OK. And now you can see all the parts routing lines are being shown. We'll finish this by saying it OK again. And now this part has been exploded. We'll say it exit sketch. Okay, this one part was remaining showing the routing lines. So I'll give the routing lines for this part also. Select the bottom arrow of exploded view option again. Go for explode line sketch. Then again put the routing lines here. So this plate is going to be mounted on the shaft. That's why I've selected this circular faces. Again the other two faces. You don't need to select all the selections together. At a time show only two faces there. Say OK and again go for the other two faces. That will be the proper way. Just check the arrow direction in between. Now it is showing proper way. Say it OK. And now all the routing lines are being provided there in assembly showing the alignments. Say it exit sketch. And now when you click on the title of the assembly, so we'll go on this title, say right click. Again we will click on collapse here. So this assembly will be reassembled or unexploded again. If you want to see the exploded stretch, go for assembly option, say right click and say explode. It will repeat or show the exploded view which we have made earlier. Again say collapse. Again right click and say explode. So in this way this exploded view has been saved in the assembly. So anytime you can go and collapse and explode the assembly view. If you want to see the animation of the explode cycle, you can right click on the title again. Go for animate explode. Now it will show one by one how this part or assembly has been exploded there. If you want to see it in a loop mode, here there is an option animation controller. You just need to select playback mode and then again say play. If you want to slow down the speed of the animation, say slow play. And you can see how these parts were assembled here. So in this way you can save animation as well as save the exploded steps there. If you want to record this animation for a purpose to send or share, then you can say save animation here. We will show the path in which we have to save the file. I'll say desktop. If you want to change the assembly or animation name, I'll say butterfly wall. Then say save again. Say it OK. Now this screen will buffer a little bit, saving the animation. At least you have to wait for one cycle to be completed there. I'll say stop again. And now we'll minimize the screen there. And here the butterfly wall animation is been saved. I'll right click and say it open with media player. And now you can see the animation being played here. The display will not show any reference of Solidworks here, neither model tree nor that ribbon. Only this animation will be saved here. So in this way you can save the animation and share the video you require. So this was exploded view here. Right click, explode. Again right click on title and say collapse. So the next assembly feature we are going to see here is mirror command. So that option of mirror you will get in this linear component pattern. Here it is given linear component pattern, circular pattern as well as mirror components. We have not seen linear component pattern and circular component pattern. If you want to pattern the components, you just use the same method as we have used in part modeling. So we'll start with mirror commands here, mirror components. In components to mirror, I have to select this part. I have made this part specially for mirror command only. You can see here, these pillars colors are matching with the UCS colors XYZ. First we have to select the components to mirror and then select the reference plane. So I'll select this as a reference plane, this face. Then we have to click on this option, that is next. As soon as you go for the next, these options will appear there, showing the way how these parts are going to be mirrored here, according to the boundaries of the box or according to the center of the mass. So this mirror command is little bit different as compared to features mirror command, in the sense that it is having orientation options here. So you can see the first orientation. I'll select the center of bounding box so as to understand the command. It is showing all the axes at the similar sides. Say it OK. You can see X, Y, Z are at similar sides and this mirror part has been created here. Again say edit feature, select the second orientation and OK. Now this cuts position are being changed here and these green pillars are showing at the similar sides. It means that this object is mirrored but oriented along the Y direction, that is along the Y axis. Again say edit feature, we'll see the next orientation. This time it is X axis, as this both the shafts of red color are at the same sides. So again this part is mirrored but along the X rotation. You can see this cut is coming at the other side, at the upper side, as it was rotated along the X axis. Again, next option, the last orientation, that will be along Z axis, around the Z axis. You can see here both the axes are showing at the similar direction, and this cut, it is rotated in this way around the Z direction, and that's why this slot is coming at the upper side. So in this mirror command, you can orient the object along the axis you require, which is not possible in regular mirror command as we used in part modeling. That's why it is little bit different. But the patterns, linear component pattern and circular component pattern, are similar to part modeling. That's why I am not repeating that commands again here. So this was mirror command with different orientations. Next thing we are going to see here is configuration of parts. So to configure the part means, suppose if you have made configuration for this part, I can make it in different sizes and update the part according to the configuration. So to start with the configurations, I'll open this part, and now after double clicking you can see the dimensions of the part here. The center to center distance here, it is giving as 300 mm, and this diameter, it is showing here as 112.5, the outer diameter. So we will update some of the values here and configure this part in two different sizes. So for configuration, you can see in left side the model tree is given, and above the model tree, here the third option is given as configuration manager. We have to select this option here. The part name is being displayed here, that is ARM, and the current configuration here it is going on is default configuration. So to create another configuration, I'll right click on this option, say add configuration. We have to provide one name here. I'll say config 2 here, configuration 2. Now there are two configurations. First one is default and another one is configuration 2. So in the second configuration, I'll double click on these parts so as to edit the values and change the sizes. Suppose I want this distance to be shortened here. Double click on the distance and this box will appear. If this box is not appearing, again cancel the dimensioning option, double click the part again, and again click on the dimension. Suppose it is showing a single box here, this is not of a use. Select the part again, double click, and this box, we need this box only. You can see one drop down menu here. Select that option, go for this configuration. Instead of saying all configuration, I'll select this option, that is with a single box. And here I'll change the value. I'll say it as 180. Say update. And now this handle size has been updated here. Suppose now if I double click on this default configuration, it will show a different sized arm. Again go for the next configuration by double clicking. This is showing the same part with different configuration. So in this way you can update the configurations. I'll go to home by clicking on this option and I'll save this part. Say Ctrl S, and now this part is having two configurations here. In configuration manager, default configuration and configuration 2. Now we will see how to update this part in assembly also. So I'll save this part and shift to assembly. Now in assembly, I'll right click on the part and say configure component. In configure component, you can see the configuration option. Select this drop down menu and instead of default, I'll say configuration 2. Apply and OK. Now here the handle is showing in a little bit smaller size. That was our configuration number 2 for the handle. Again, if you want to update this configuration, right click on the part, go for configure component and again say default, say it OK and apply. So in this way we have configured this part. We'll repeat this configure option for this nut also again. So I'll say open to this part and here we will change the size of the nut. Say configuration manager, right click on the title, say add configuration and go for one name here. I'll say nut 2, say OK, and now double click on this part. If you want to change the size, double click on the value and in this value say this configuration option only. It is compulsory to update this option here, then change the value. So I'll change this value again. I'll say it 50 only this time. Update this part. Now there is default configuration first and the second configuration. I'll go to home and save this part. Again go to assembly, and for configuring this nut now, click on the nut, right click and say configure component. Here we have nut 2, apply and OK. So now this nut size has been updated here. Again, if you want the similar size of nut as it was earlier, right click on the nut, go for configure component again and select default nut. Say apply and OK. So in this way you can configure the part and display it in assembly also. We can also make configuration of assemblies here. So for the configuration of assemblies, we'll go for configuration manager in assembly itself. Right click on title, say add configuration. I'll say assembly with second handle. I have given the title here, say it OK. And now there is default assembly and assembly with second handle. So in this configuration, I'll update this handle size. We already have the configuration of this handle. I'll right click on this part, say configure component, and now you can see assembly configurations here. So in assembly with second handle, instead of default, I'll select configure to, apply and OK. Now you can see assembly with second handle and default assembly. There is a difference of handle size. As I click on default assembly, the handle size is changed here. Again go for the second configuration. This handle size is again changed here. So now we are having assembly configurations also with different handle sizes. So this was part and assembly configuration. It is very useful tool if you are having similar parts but of different sizes. You can just configure the part, accordingly configure the assemblies. So this was the session for today. That was session number 19. So in next sessions, we'll start with sheet metal work. Till then, thank you.